Yo, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today we're doing an Unchained deck profile, and this deck is absolutely off the chain. I love playing this deck. It just destroys everything against you, and just basically special summon some really powerful link monsters. It's super fun to be able to play with, and probably one of the coolest decks and artworks that I've seen in a while, and it's just really fun to play. I love the way the deck plays. It plays a lot of traps, which the average deck nowadays doesn't play as many traps as this deck does, and it's just super fun. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can come part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon in the description below for all those awesome rewards, like getting your name description every single video, getting a signed card in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month for Patreon along with test hands. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 2 copies of an Abominable Unchained Soul. So Abominable Unchained Soul is pretty much the boss monster of the main deck, and what it does is you can special summon this card from your hand once per turn, or you can special summon this card only once per turn. And if this card, or if a card you control is destroyed by battle or by card effect, you can special summon this card from your hand instantly. And if this card is special summoned, then you can discard a card, destroy a card on the field, which can be yours or your opponent's, which can benefit you sometimes to actually destroy your own cards. And then it also has the ability that once returned during the end phase, if this card is in the graveyard because it was destroyed on the field this turn and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon it back to your side of the field, but place it on the bottom of the deck when it leaves the field. So it's a really good card just to be able to instantly special summon it back. This card has multiple ways to special summon itself and is a really good 3k body to summon to your field. We then play a single copy of Unchained Soul of Disasters. You just play 1. You don't want to draw into this card ever. You want to special summon it to your side of the field off of the twins. And basically what this card does is you get to target 1 monster your opponent controls, and immediately that card resolves. You link summon to a DarkArmedAlliance monster, and then you just link summon to that monster, which is really good just to be able to just use your opponent's monsters against them to link summon. I love being able to do that against my opponent. It's super fun to be able to do that, and it's really easy to pop off with this card. We then play 3 copies of the Fire Twin. 3 copies of the Fire Twin is just really good. You get to target a card you control, and you can't special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except for fiend monsters. You destroy the targeted card, and if you special summon this card from your hand, and if this card is on the field, is destroyed by a card effect except by another copy of itself, or destroyed by battle, you can special summon 1 unchained monster from your hand or deck, which is really good. We then play 3 copies of the Water Twin. 3 copies of the Water Twin is really good. It's not quite as good as the Fire Twin, but what it does is you get to quick effect, target a card you control, destroy it, and also you can't special summon a monster this turn except for fiend monsters. And if this card is on the field, is destroyed by a card effect, then you get to special summon 1 Unchained monster from your hand or deck. It doesn't special summon itself, which is a little bit unfortunate, but it's still really good. We then play 3 copies of Sarama. Sarama is really good because it has the ability you get to target an Unchained card in your graveyard except another copy itself and set it to your field, and you can destroy a card you control, and if this card on the field is destroyed by a card effect, then you can, or by battle, then you can special summon an Unchained monster in your hand or deck. So basically they all float like Mystic Tomato, which is really cool. I really love that effect of them, that they all pretty much float. All the twins do. All 3 of the twins do. For some reason we have 3 twins. We then play a single copy of Dark Spirit of Banishment and a single copy of Dark Spirit of Malice, which you guys are unfamiliar with what these do. They are really good in Fiend decks that play level 8. And basically what they do is I almost said Unchained Dark Spirit. But Dark Spirit of Banishment has the ability that if your opponent's monster declares an attack, at the start of damage step, you can send this card from your hand to the graveyard to target 1 level 8 Fiend monster in the graveyard and special summon it. But its effects are negated, and if you do, change the attack target to that card and perform damage calculation. If a level 8 monster that's a Fiend monster is sent to the graveyard while this card's in the grave, you can add it back to your hand. You can only each effect this card once per turn. Malice does the exact same thing, but when an opponent's monster activates a card effect, you can target 1, or you can send this card from your hand or field to the graveyard to target a level 8 monster that's a Fiend in your grave and special summon it back. And then it has the same effect that if this card's in the graveyard, or if a level 8 Fiend monster is sent to the graveyard, you can add this card back to your hand, which is really good. We then play 3 copies of Ash Blossom because it is the most well-rounded hand trap of them all to just stop your opponent from touching the deck. So, that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to be playing only 6 spells, which is 3 copies of Abomination's Prison, and 3 copies of Pot of Extravagance. So basically what these do is this is going to get you all sorts of draws by banishing 6 cards from your extra deck to the graveyard, or banishing 6 cards from your extra deck. And then Abomination's Prison lets you add an Unchained card from your deck to your hand, and if it's destroyed, on your side of the field, then you get to special summon an Unchained monster from the deck, which is pretty good. So that's pretty much it for the spells. You just play these because you play 3 of the Rhoda and 3 of Pot of Extravagance to be able to draw cards. You can change this out for Pot of Prosperity if you want to. I just like Extravagance because it gives me that one extra card. There's not a particular card that I have to have in this deck. It's a combo piece, so I like having the extra card over Prosperities. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, this is where the deck starts really shining. So first off, we're going to be playing 2 copies of Heavy Storm Duster. This is just to deal with my opponent's back row. It lets me target 2 spell traps on the field and destroy them. It can be my own, but you can't conduct your battle phase the turn you activate this effect. Usually it's going to be during your opponent's turn that you're going to activate this anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. It's really, really good to be able to use this card, to be able to pop cards that your opponent has and some of your trap cards as well. We then play 3 copies of Trap Trick. The 3 copies of Trap Trick is just really, really, really good because it lets you copy any of your trap cards that's in your deck, because you banish a normal trap from your deck and then you get to set one with the same name as the card that you just banished, but you can only activate 1 trap for the rest of the turn. Not that big of a deal in this deck because you're just going to basically be activating 1 or 2 traps per turn anyways because they have such crazy good effects. We then play 3 copies of Torrential Tribute. Torrential Tribute is absolutely bonkers in this deck because this card is so broken in this deck, because when a monster is summoned, you destroy all cards on the field. All of our cards float, except for Disasters and Abominable Unchained Soul. No, Abominable Unchained Soul floats back from the graveyard. So yeah, Disasters is literally only one. No, Disasters floats into another monster. So yeah, no, they all float. So this card basically just says destroy all your monsters and I get to float into other monsters. So this card is really, really good to be able to just destroy all the monsters on the field, and I don't really care if mine get destroyed, so it's fine. We then play 3 copies of Ice Dragon's Prison. Ice Dragon's Prison is basically sometimes an auto win against your opponent in a deck like this. I really like it in a deck that plays Trap Tricks, and basically what it does is you target a monster in your opponent's graveyard, special summon it to your field, but its effects are negated, and then you can banish a monster from both players' fields that have the same type as each other. So basically you revive one of your opponent's monsters, and then you basically banish a monster that your opponent has on the field and that monster that you just revived. So basically, in a nutshell, this card is really, really good against Tri-Brigade because I will usually grab a Fangtail from their graveyard and then banish it with another Beast Warrior that's on their side of the field, which is really good. It can also help out with Eldritch if they're playing zombies in the deck, because you can banish the Eldritch Lord and then banish another monster from their side of the field, which is really good. Or banish a hand trap that they've discarded and the Eldritch Lord, which is really good. It's just an overall really, really good card in this deck. We then play 3 copies of Escape of the Unchained. Escape of the Unchained lets you target an Unchained monster you control and 1 card on the field and destroy both of them. And if this set card is destroyed by a card effect, then you get to special summon 1 Unchained monster from the deck, which is really, really good. We then play 3 copies of Abominable Chamber of the Unchained. Abominable Chamber lets you special summon an Unchained monster in your hand or graveyard. And if this set card is destroyed on the field by a card effect, you get to special summon an Unchained monster in deck. So regardless, this card is going to get you a card unless they Cosmic Cyclone it. That's the only time that this card will not get you a special summon, is if they banish the card and it doesn't get popped by a card effect. But usually you're going to get a special summon an Unchained from the hand or grave or deck from this card. It usually is going to go off, and it's probably one of the best traps in the entire deck. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing 2 copies of Abominable Unchained, or Unchained Abomination. Unchained Abomination is just a 2-0 to me. You're not going to go into this as often as you think you would, surprisingly, in this deck. You go into a lot of other Link monsters because you have a lot of other boss Link monsters in the deck. But what this card does is if a card on the field is destroyed by a card effect, then you destroy a card on the field. And when another monster is destroyed by battle, you destroy a card on the field. And then just for principle of it, during the end phase, you destroy another card on the field. This card can destroy up to 3 cards per turn, which is really good. It is a 3k beat stick, and the downward link arrows sometimes come up and sometimes help, but it's an overall really, really good card for this deck. We then play 3 copies of Unchained Soul of Anguish. Unchained Soul of Anguish is really good because you have to use an Unchained Soul to go into this card, but it has to, and then you can target on your turn. You can target a face-up monster your opponent controls, and immediately this card resolves. You link summon a dark monster from your extra deck using that monster your opponent controls and your card, and if this card on the field is destroyed by battle or by card effect, you can you can target one Fiend monster in the graveyard and add it to your hand, which is a pretty good effect just to be able to tag in and out of your Fiend monsters and be able to link summon using your opponent's cards. We then play 3 copies of Unchained Soul of Rage. Soul of Rage is probably the best card in the entire extra deck because this is going to be your main card. It is a quick effect. It takes 2 Unchained Soul monsters to summon this card, or an Unchained Soul monster and an Unchained monster. But basically what this card does is during your opponent's main phase, quick effect, you can target one face-up special summon monster your opponent controls. Immediately this card resolves, you link summon a dark monster using this card and that monster, and you have a lot of different targets in this deck to be able to go into, which is really easy to go into this card. And also it has the ability that by using this card as material and that card, and if this card on the field is destroy a battle, or by card effect, you can target one Fiend monster in the graveyard and add it to your hand, which is a really good effect just to be able to go into some really insane plays. We then play double Unicorn because you can actually use Rage to go into Unicorn to then spin a card on your opponent's side of the field, which is pretty good. 1 copy of Phoenix because it does give you a fire attribute as well to use for access code, and plus it can also help you pop spells and traps. 1 copy of Topologic Trisbania because you can actually go into this with Rage, which is really good. And if a monster is special summoned to his own, this card points to you, banish as many of those monsters as possible, and also any spells and traps as possible. And if you do inflict 500 points of damage to your opponent for each card banished by this effect, which is pretty good in this deck. 1 copy of Topologic Dragon. This card is really good because if a monster is special summoned to his own, this card points to, it destroys every monster on the field. And also if this card destroys a monster of a battle, you inflict damage to your opponent, or excuse me, if this card attacked an opponent's monster, you inflict damage to your opponent equal to the monster's original attack, which is pretty good just immediately to inflict pretty much if it destroys a monster by battle head on, they're going to take 3,000 damage. So summoning this to your side of the field is pretty good because when your monsters float, it will float into this card and then immediately board wipe, and then they will be able to special summon another monster, which is pretty good. We then play a second copy of Topologic Zeroboros. Zeroboros is another card that you can go into if you want to. And it's pretty helpful to go into this card because you cannot special monsters to extra monster zones this card points to, and it gains 2 attack for each card banished, and it just can banish everything on the field if your opponent special summons to a zone it points to, which is pretty good, and then it brings itself back and gains 200 for every card that's banished, which is really good. We play a second copy of Access Code because Access Code can get you additional pops on the field. If you don't want to play the Access Code because you're trying to make this deck budget, you can drop it if you want to for a copy of Boral Sword or Boral Load. And then we play a single copy of Dingirsu because it can protect your cards from being destroyed while it has materials on it. So it's a little bit of an easy card to actually do, and also can send cards your opponent controls to the graveyard on summon, which is kind of nice too. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. It's a really fun deck. I have really fallen in love with playing this deck again, all over again. I loved it when it came out. This was like the hype deck that I played with all the time when it first came out, and now I'm just picking it right back up again and like playing it all the time. It's super fun to play with, and it's really easy to learn. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards. And we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.